Years ago, I cut my thumb working on a construction site. Now, it wasn't that deep, but it's about as deep as you can get before you hit bone. I remember sitting in the ER waiting room with that throbbing pain and watch people getting called in. After waiting for over an hour and a half and watching people come and go, I told my wife, let's go. I can deal with it. I can put a few butterflies across it and tape it up. Mine was a minor injury in the scope of things. But imagine a man with a serious problem sitting in that waiting room, not for an hour, not for a day, but for years, in a place filled with people, and yet he was completely invisible. Day after day, people step around him or over him. They don't mean to be cruel. They're just focused on their own needs. Every morning he wakes up with the same thought. Maybe today something will change. He hears rumors. There's a new treatment coming. There's a specialist who may be able to help. There's hope. Just stay close. So he waits. He watches others come in, some worse off, others less worse than him. And somehow they get called back. But day after day, year after year, his thoughts shift from hope to frustration to quiet resignation. At some point, he stops asking, will I be healed? And starts settling for, this is just my life. Then one day, someone walks into the room who doesn't just hand him a clipboard, doesn't put him on a list, doesn't tell him to just be patient. This person simply asks, do you want to be made well? That's exactly where we find the man in John 5. 38 years of waiting, not just sick, but stuck in his infirmity. Not just suffering, but surrounded by false hope and despair. And then Jesus shows up, not to help him cope, but to completely change his condition. You see, this passage isn't just about a miracle. It's about what happens when grace walks into a place where people have learned to live without it. Let me pray for us. Father, as we examine this miracle story, reveal to us the areas of our life where we're stuck in wrong thinking, stuck in defeat, Lord, stuck in traditions instead of a relationship with you. May your word liberate us today. Now, there are moments in life when we become accustomed to what's broken. We adjust, we cope, we survive. But deep down, something in us knows this isn't how it's supposed to be. We seldom ever even notice how easily we adjust to something that once bothered us. At first, it drove you crazy, a noise, a pain, a problem. But over time, you stop fighting it. You rearrange your life around it. You lower your expectations. You tell yourself, this is just how things are now. This is the hand that's been dealt me, and I have to get used to it. What was once temporary becomes permanent. That's a picture painted for us in John 5. The story of the man Jesus heals at the pool of Bethesda. This man has lived with infirmity for 38 years. His condition is real, but his condition has become his position in life. He's stuck as an invalid. And then Jesus steps in, not to manage his situation, but to completely transform it. Then we want to look first at the reality of this situation. in John chapter 5, verse 2. It says that there's in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches. In those lay a great multitude of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time in the pool and stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped in first after the stirring of the water was made well of whatever disease he had. It's interesting to note that the name Bethesda means mercy house or house of mercy. Notice that verse 3 describes a great multitude of sick and infirm people. Not just a multitude, a great multitude. A great multitude in a place called House of Mercy. But this House of Mercy has become a place of limited mercy. A place where hope is mixed with desperation and despair. Humans never really change. We're always grasping for something to help our weaknesses. It may be the power in bubbling water in a pool or the stars in the sky in certain formation. Some person perceived to have magical power. If you have your Bible open, you will notice a footnote after the word paralyzed in verse 3. It says the remainder of verse 3 and all the 4 are not found in the oldest manuscripts. It appears that those words were added by a scribe somewhere along the way to support a religious tradition. As a matter of fact, the manuscript support for this passage is so poor that the NIV, the New Living Translation, the English Standard Version, and others do not even include these verses in the translation. Depending on your version, you may find that verse 3 jumps to verse 5, totally omitting verse 4. However, verse 7 makes it clear that the waters do become agitated at times. But there's no mention of an angel stirring the waters. And there's no real indication of any miraculous power. Modern archaeological work in the area points to the presence of a hot spring. A hot spring is a geothermal event. The only difference between a geyser and a hot spring is the plumbing. The geyser erupts violently because its conduits are narrow, while the hot springs conduits are more open and unrestricted. Both are highly mineral rich, as the hot water from deep in the earth dissolves silica, sulfur, and other minerals from the underground rocks and carries them to the surface. The fact that the waters are troubled intermittently implies that the conduit of the hot spring here is somewhat restricted. So the pressure builds up and then erupts, causing the water to be troubled or to bubble. Into this den of desperation, despair, and dying hope, Jesus enters and gives an open invitation. He surveys the situation, his eyes fixed on this man, and he learns that he's been there for nearly 4 decades. Then he asks what on the surface seems to be an obvious question. Would you like to get well? Now, many, if not most, interpret this question as, do you really want to get well? Questioning his desire. The Greek literally means, are you willing to be healed? Are you ready to be healed? I believe Jesus is offering healing to the man. Would you like for me to heal you? Now, if we're not careful, we'll miss an important point. It's right in front of us, but we tend to focus on the other part of the story. The man did not call out to Jesus. He didn't even know who Jesus was. He did not demonstrate any real faith, except faith in the legend of the bubbling water. Jesus is the one who initiates the encounter. What a beautiful picture of grace. In this house of mercy, Christ extended grace. The man was stuck in his infirmity, and Jesus knew it. Jesus didn't ask anything of the man. Even his command to take up his mat came after his healing. Well, I'm saying that it was not a condition for his healing. Jesus is asking the question that he often asks us. Are you ready to change? Are you willing to get out of this stuck condition? Are you ready and willing to abandon your false hopes and lean on Jesus' word? Sometimes we're so focused on our limitations, on our past, on our disappointments, that we can't even say, yes, Lord, I won't change. The man's answer exposes the brokenness of his heart. He's stuck in the traditions of men and his personal hopelessness. In John 5:7, he says, Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes in ahead of me. All these people he's lived with for 38 years are hoping for healing, but trusting in a religious legend and tradition. For 38 years, he's tried to get into that pool. His answer makes it clear that his faith is in that bubbly water and the religious interpretation of the event. Now, just as a little backstory, it was common among the Jewish people that day to attribute positive events to the work of angels and negative events to the work of demons. The waters of Bethesda appeared to be high in mineral content, much like famous mineral baths around the world today. The description of what happens at the pool sounds like a subterranean, mineral-laden hot water underneath the pool that occasionally bubbles up. Longing for the miraculous, the people believed that this disturbance was caused by an angel swimming around the water. The first people to move in the water after the bubbling were believed to be healed. They didn't understand the healing powers of the concentrated minerals bubbling up. Whoever stepped in first doesn't mean only the first person entering the water was healed. Only a certain number could manage to get into the pool while the water was stirred. The stirring, the strong mineral properties were soon deleted. And those who couldn't manage to get in were forced to wait for the next agitation. The passage does not imply that healings occurred instantly or miraculously. The properties of the water would cause a gradual healing. The man's answer also reveals that he's stuck in his condition. What we can adjust to is almost dangerous as we accept our condition. At first you struggle and fight against the problem. You may pray about it, asking God to change the situation, asking God to heal you. Then you hear some religious platitude like, God doesn't change circumstances. He changes how you deal with the circumstance. Over time, you adjust. You cope with the problem or weakness. You lower your expectations. That's where this man is. His problem is real, but he's stuck in his mindset. He stopped asking, when will this change? And started saying, this is just the way I am. I've struggled with this for nearly 40 years and nothing has changed. You see, being stuck is not just about what happens to you. It's about what you come to accept. Jesus asked the man, do you want to be made well? He's not asking if the man wants sympathy or understanding. He's not asking if he wants some temporary relief. Jesus is asking if he wants real, lasting relief. It's interesting that the word translated well has a deeper meaning than simply healed of affliction. It's important that we notice that Jesus doesn't say, do you want to be healed? He says, do you want to be made well? Literally, Jesus is asking if he wants to be made healthy or whole. That's what the word translated well literally means. Jesus is not offering to patch him up. He's offering health as a natural state. Bodily and spiritual health are linked together. There's the health of the soul as well as the body. Jesus is offering to get him out of this stuck position. He's offering health, body, soul, and spirit. Solomon understood the connection. In Proverbs 17:22, he wrote this, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. The man's answer to Jesus reveals just how stuck he is. He's asked if he'd like to be made healthy. And he does not answer with yes, the obvious answer. He explains his stuck position. He says he has no one to help him get in the pool. He has no one there to get him there into the pool when the waters are bubbling. Everybody's busy trying to get in the pool for themselves. And he gets pushed to the side. But notice, he doesn't really even answer the offer. He's so stuck that he focuses on the perceived obstacles and blames his circumstances. Any of this sound familiar? It sounds something like we do continually. He is adapted to his condition, and his identity is tied to his affliction. See, here's the truth. Not everyone truly wants to be made well. We say we want health, but health requires change. I may complain about being overweight, and I know it's bad for my health. But healthy living requires lifestyle changes that will disrupt my comfort. It reminds me of the story about an old man visiting his friend. They were sitting on the front porch catching up. As they sat talking, the owner's dog lay nearby, softly groaning. The visitor asked, "Oh, what's wrong with your dog?" And the owner said, "He's lying on a nail." And the visitor said, "Well, why doesn't he get up then?" The owner replied, "Because it doesn't hurt enough yet." Many of us deal with our afflictions and problems like that dog. It doesn't hurt enough yet. Jesus listens to his explanation, and then he gives him a command. Get up, pick up your mat and walk. Now the man is stuck with a choice. Verse 9 tells us that at once the man is made whole. But now he has a major decision to make. Jesus has just told him to carry the mat that has carried him all these years. But that command creates a conflict. It's the Sabbath. And it's unlawful to carry your mat on the Sabbath. Now he's stuck with a choice. Obey this one who healed him, or obey rabbinical law. But he has just been healed. I imagine his response was like the cripple at the beautiful gate when Peter and John healed him. That man went running and leaping and praising God for his healing. I don't think he cared that much about what day of the week it was, if he even thought about it. I would think that everyone else would celebrate with him. But when the Jewish leaders see him, they say, "Don't you realize that you're breaking the Sabbath law? Why are you carrying your mat?" But reading between the lines, I hear the man say, or at least think, "Are you kidding me? Are you blind? That man healed me instantly, made me whole. Not waiting for some trouble in the water. In an instant, these old legs were restored. My whole health was restored. No matter what he told me to do, If he told me to stand on my head, I would do it. Sabbath or no Sabbath. You see, the Jewish leaders are so focused on the Sabbath rules that they completely miss the miracle. They totally miss what the Sabbath is all about. This man had rested on his own strength for 38 years. But now he's entered into the rest of God's power. On the other hand, the Jewish leaders are so stuck in their traditions that they don't even celebrate with the man. They don't rejoice in his healing. They don't ask, how did this wonderful thing happen? Their concern is about the rabbinical rules. And those rules are extensive. In Exodus 20, God gave a simple command. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Later, in the Mishnah, the rabbis elaborate on that simple command by defining 38 categories of what was to be considered work. And the Talmud, another extensive rabbinical writing, added 1,521 specific rulings or applications related to the Sabbath observance. These Jewish leaders are so focused on these rules that they can't rejoice in the healing. Instead of rejoicing, they rebuke the poor man. Don't you realize it's the Sabbath? It's not lawful for you to carry that mat. They are so stuck in their man-made regulations that they can't see the power of God at work. Their attitude is like people watching a house fire. Suddenly the husband breaks out a window and the family is rescued from the flames. But instead of cheering the rescue, people from the HOA get upset that he broke the window. The poor man's house has been burning for 38 years and he's grown accustomed to the heat. Jesus broke the stuck window, and the Jews are focused on the broken window. Sometimes the greatest resistance to what God is doing comes from people who are more comfortable with tradition than transformation. Not everyone truly wants to be made whole. Real healing intrudes on our comfort zone. To walk in health, both spiritually and physically, will require change. We are inspired by what we read in the stories of men like Smith Wigglesworth and others. Smith not only healed thousands of people, he himself walked in divine health. A skeptical dentist asked to examine Smith's teeth, hoping to find decay. What he found was the opposite. His testimony was that he had never seen such a perfect set of teeth in his life. We say, I want to live like that. But then we read about things that he did with his lifestyle that would be shattering to our comfort. We talked about the fact that he read nothing but the Bible. But you may not know that he read a verse and prayed a short prayer every 15 minutes. How would that practice interfere with your life? Even as I speak these words, I begin to start thinking of obstacles and excuses. Waiting in health, or walking in health rather, evokes change. And change breaks comfortable patterns. Those lifestyle patterns that must be broken, exposed, what we're adjusted to, what we've grown comfortable with. For 38 years, this man has been stuck in patterns of failure. Failure that he had become comfortable with. His life was now built around being stuck. And Jesus comes along and offers him health, but that health will require new and probably uncomfortable habits. The healing and health will form a totally new identity with a whole new set of responsibilities. You don't really need more time. You need to stop rehearsing your excuses and reasons. You can always find someone to blame, something that went wrong, something out of your control. a reason that hasn't happened yet. But Jesus is not asking for your explanation. He's asking for your willingness. Some of you have been sitting by your pool a long time. You've adjusted. You've coped. You've stopped expecting. You're stuck. But Jesus is still asking, do you want to be made healthy, body, soul, and spirit? Some of you aren't just dealing with a problem, you've adapted to it. You've stopped praying about it. Stop believing things could change. Stop trying. You see your situation as helpless, and hopelessness has become your identity. Not well, not free, just comfortable enough to stay stuck. Jesus came to set the captives free. He came to lift you out of your stuck situation. This is the day for you to get unstuck.